Greetings, fellow gorehounds, and welcome to a Blood Splattered vlog, where Count Jackula and I are going to talk about X, the latest movie by Ti West. For those of you who don't know, Ti West is a director that I've been a longtime fan of, who's known for doing such films as House of the Devil, The Roost, and The Innkeepers. This is his latest horror joint after doing a brief stint in the Western world. He decided to come back to horror with this in a big way, and I dug this movie.
Yeah. It's the basic premise is a bunch of people come to an isolated farm in the middle of Texas to film a porno.
Yes.
And deaths ensue.
We cannot tell you much about the killer of this movie without major spoilers, so that's going to be reserved for the spoiler section. But what we can tell you is that this movie is a very graphic slasher film.
Oh yeah.
We're talking boobs, blood, and gore. We're talking everything. It's got it all.
This is the A24 film that people who don't like A24 don't understand that they do.
Yeah.
This is not, like, how to put it. This is the movie itself has a character who's constantly talking about it could be more than porn, it could be art. The funny thing is, this movie actually does that.
Oh yeah. What's really great about this film is that it's basically making itself out to be it's interesting. It is simultaneously a homage while also being its own thing. It's homaging the style of certain movies from the 1970s, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a big one, Last House on the Left's another one, The Hills Have Eyes is another one. But its story, outside of like the surface level similarities, is very different than all those films.
It is. It's a very modern tale.
And what's really cool about
despite the fact it's set in the 70s.
And what's really cool about this film is despite the fact that it's trying to evoke the feel of like 1970s exploitation films, including 1970s pornographic films, it's a very well-written story with really well-developed characters and themes. Like, this is 100% an A24 film while also being a cheesy, gory slasher film.
Yeah. It's sleazy as fuck.
Sleazy is probably a better word than cheesy.
It's a sleazy movie.
While also being a sleazy slasher film. That's probably a better word than cheesy.
Yeah.
And it's managed to do both. Like, Ti West managed to like thread that needle.
Yeah. I think this is probably actually Ti West's best movie.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think it accomplishes everything he set out to do even better than his last films. And his last films, like, he did pretty well, but they always had like one thing about them that made me go like, that movie's great, but I kind of wish he'd done this.
Exactly. Like House of the Devil, there are definitely times when you're like, well, this is a good movie, but I kind of wish he got on with it a little sooner.
It feels a little padded, right?
Yeah,
it
does.
Like there's slow burn and then there's padding.
Yeah. And you're like, to do a movie that looked like it was made in the late 70s, early 80s, it fucking scores high marks.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as like getting on with what we're here to see, it takes its sweet damn time.
Like, he does a great job of recreating the feel of like Richard Donner's The Omen in terms of like a visual style.
Yeah.
But Richard Donner's The Omen had more things happen at the beginning. Mm-hmm. He takes his sweet time in that movie. Now,
by the first 20 minutes of Omen, like, Damien's already killed somebody.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
and now some of that is actual character building and suspense building, and all that stuff's great. But then others of it just can kind of feel like he's like just extending it so that it's a feature length, you know?
Yeah, because even in like John Carpenter's original like Halloween, Michael Myers shows up in the first 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even though he doesn't start killing until a bit later.
Now, the payoff of House of the Devil makes all the waiting worth it, regardless of the padding.
Yes.
Like, once you get to where the movie's going, that movie really just hits you over the head, and you're like, holy shit, how do we get here?
Yeah. And Ti West is really, really fond of movies that narratively fuck with you and have, like, a narrative sense of humor.
Absolutely. You can tell that he was like giggling behind the scenes in this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely in X. Yeah. But I was thinking like in House of the Devil when the head of the cult like actually starts like killing people. Yeah. It's still with this kind of like, oh god damn it, why do we have to do this? Like, I work so hard, Like,
oh man! And the thing about this movie that's really cool is that he does take his time with this movie, much like House of the Devil and much like The Innkeepers, but nothing feels like padding. all of it feels like it's adding something to the story, whether it be developing the cast of characters that are all going to be killed off very soon as the movie goes on, or whether it's exploring the actual thematic elements of the movie, because this is a slasher movie with something to say.
Yeah, this is also the largest cast Ti West has ever. Well, maybe not the West. Maybe not the
Western might be his largest cast.
The largest cast, but this is a very large cast for him because usually it's only about like there's usually only 2 or 3 people in Ti West movie until there's like the need for crowd scenes.
He often makes very small, isolated movies, and this movie is small and isolated, but with a bigger cast.
Yeah, it's got like 5 or 6 major characters, you know, and it's done really well.
And they're all well developed. Not like some of them start off like as a very specific stereotype, like here's the bimbo, here's this, here's the mean bitch.
Yeah, but everyone's got like one thing that makes them not the stereotype.
Yeah, as the story goes on and you learn more about them, they're not actually that stereotype. The bimbo is actually really fucking smart, for example. Yeah. Like, you know, the one that you think is like the virginal kind of final girl, turns out there's more layers to her than just that.
Yes.
Kind of like Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Yes.
Which is a similar thing.
Has a bit of the same. Yeah.
You know, and so this movie does a great job of not only playing with the tropes, but also developing everything. And also, it's got some really interesting commentary on the relationship between porn films and horror films, coming from the perspective of loving both.
Then there is the real, like the thematic antagonist, not the person actually doing the killing, but the thematic antagonist is televangelism.
Oh yeah,
Christianity.
Oh yeah, American Puritanism. Because there's definitely
there's a reason it's set in Texas.
There's an element of this movie that is kind of like drawing the connection between the way American Puritanism went after porn films and the way it goes after horror films. And to this day, to be honest, like for both of them, and it's drawing that connection and the relationship between them, and it does a really good job of that, while also telling a very human story about characters that are just trying to like find their big break. Yeah, you know, like all they want to do is they'll do anything just to make it so they don't have to live in a shithole anymore, right? Like you know, these are people like, even though there's a little bit of that Texas Chainsaw Massacre, city folk versus rural folk, these aren't fully city folk.
No.
Poor people living on the outskirts. They're not like full on like yuppies, you know.
Right. You know, like they're only city folk compared to like where they're at the moment.
Like the most successful one of them is the one that owns a strip club, and it's a strip club, and it's obviously successful enough that he could fund this movie, but like only such, you know, like it's still a really low budget movie, and the strip club is obviously not where he wants to be in life.
Yeah, like it's really obvious that like none of that's another thing, like none of the characters actually want to live where they live. Yeah. That I thought was kind of interesting.
I also like the title of the movie. The title of the movie connects thematically to the rest of the movie, which we can talk more about in the spoiler section because some of it does edge on spoiler territory. But the title of the movie X refers to the X Factor.
The X Factor and the X rating.
Yes, the X Factor and the X rating. But when I'm referring to the X Factor, the factor that makes someone go from being a star to just being a nobody. You know, they have that X Factor, right? Yeah. You know, and it's also, you know, the X rating and also XXX pornography. Like, there's layers to the title, but like, those are all like the moment the title's actually mentioned in the movie is when X Factor comes in. Yeah. Like, you know. This is a really well done movie. If you like yourself a sleazy 70s style movie, then you definitely owe it to yourself to check this movie out. If you've been missing slasher movies that have equal amounts of boobs and blood, then this movie will give you both.
Definitely give you both.
Give you both 100%. If you want a horror movie that's a slasher movie, but is a little smarter than the average slasher movie, you know, like A24 style, it's got something to say.
It's more of a Grand Guignol. Yeah. You know, like a little more than just like, I don't know, like, again. Now, here's what it comes down to. The movie is not very pretentious at all, but it has very lofty artistic goals.
I would agree, because I would even argue that some of Ti West's previous films come across a little bit more pretentious than this one does.
Oh, yeah, I would agree.
Because he's definitely a filmmaker that was making what people called elevated horror before elevated horror was a term.
Yeah, especially with like the Innkeepers.
Yeah, like he was kind of like the proto, what would you call it? The prototype for what would
before Ari Aster there was Ty West. You know?
Exactly. And because of that, in the early days of his career, he often divided a lot of horror fans because you had the horror fans that really liked what he was doing, making these like throwback recreations of 70s and 80s movies, and others who just thought that like, oh, his movies are just pretentious, you know, like they think they're smarter than they are, blah, 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 blah. And what I like about this movie is I feel like this movie balances all those elements the best out of all of his films.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. This movie did not come off as pretentious at all.
No.
You know, it comes off as high quality.
Yep.
You know, high quality in areas where a movie like this wouldn't necessarily have that high quality. Because, you know, they just don't.
And this movie is really fun. Like,
oh, yeah.
The thing that's most surprising about the movie is that I think it probably takes the longest I've seen a slasher movie take to get going, unless you're talking about something like Silent Night, Deadly Night, where it's like the backstory of the killer and then we get to the killing.
Oh, right. Well, like, yeah, that's...
But this movie takes a while to get to the actual like slasher part of the movie, but you're never bored leading up to that point.
Yeah.
Like, it's still fun even before the slashing starts. And once the slashing starts, it gets even funner. Even while it's like completely fucking with you and grossing you out and like, you know.
There's definitely a point in the middle of the movie when the first actual kill happens on screen is when the thing goes from being more porno to more horror. Because a lot of in the first half is like footage of them that they are recording. You know,
well, it's kind of like if it wasn't for like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre homages that happen at the beginning of the movie, because there's a lot of shots at the beginning of the movie that definitely evoke the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And there are shots later in the movie that evoke other horror films. But at the beginning, they're definitely leaning on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Despite that, this kind of has a little bit of that From Dusk Till Dawn effect, where the beginning of the movie is one type of movie, and then the second half of the movie is a different type of movie.
Yeah, but it transitions much more gracefully.
Yeah.
Whereas Dusk Till Dawn was intended to be very abrupt.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot more foreshadowing leading up to the transition in this than there was in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, Dusk Till Dawn, they were trying to get you unawares.
Yeah. I highly recommend X. I did not expect a movie to come along that was going to dethrone Fresh from my favorite movie of the year so far list, but this movie did it. This is far my favorite horror movie of the year, with Fresh as being the number 2 right now. And that will evolve and change as the year goes on and more movies come out. And I honestly hope it does, because if this is like the baseline of where the movies are going to be at this year, we're in for a fun year.
Oh yeah, I'm just amazed that this movie exists and it's as good as it is.
Oh my god, like you don't realize how much you're missing the boobs and blood approach until someone does it.
Yeah,
and someone does it well.
Yeah, very well.
Because oftentimes I watch a lot of low-budget horror movies, and a lot of the really low-budget... This is low-budget, but I mean like the movies that are made by a bunch of friends on a shoestring budget.
Yeah, but amateur low-budget films.
And those films can be fun, and they often do have the boobs and blood, but they're often like at an even lower tier of quality than even the 80s movies were.
Yes,
It was cool to see a movie that had that was of this level of quality.
Yeah, this... allow me a moment of pretension, a level of my own pretension. Like, I'm looking at like what Ty West is doing, and I found myself thinking of like, not only guys like Fulci and...
There's like a scene in this that's just straight out of a Fulci.
Oh yeah, movie. It is.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm seeing Fulci, I'm seeing Argento, but I'm also seeing Fellini.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Fellini in there too. Yeah, 100%. This movie is currently only available in theaters. It'll hopefully hit streaming later this year, but I don't know when. So for right now, if you want to risk the theaters and you're fully vaxxed, then go see the movie and enjoy it. This movie could use your support because unfortunately, movies like this aren't doing very well in theaters right now, but they deserve to.
Yeah.
So, but even if you can't go see it in theaters, like hit it when it hits streaming because you're not going to be disappointed. if you like these kinds of movies. It's weird saying that because I don't think there's many movies exactly like this one because it's such a weird amalgamation of other types of movies.
Yeah, this is the type of movie that only seems common to people like us.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, actually, one of the other movies I think of when I think about this one is Tusk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see a little bit of Tusk here. A little bit of Tusk, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit of that. We're doing something stupid.
Yeah.
You know?
Anyway, my fellow Gorehounds, we're going to move on to the spoiler section. Again, this movie can be definitely spoiled for you, so if you do not want to be spoiled, then turn back now. Was there any like Texas Chainsaw Massacre style dead animals in this?
There are some dead animals in this because remember there is that dead cow in the beginning.
Oh yes, there's a dead cow in this movie. It is really fucking graphic. It's in your face. If you can't handle that, which the characters certainly couldn't.
Yeah.
Then you might want to be warned going in, and maybe you should wait for streaming so you can look away easier.
Yeah. But if the sight of a dead cow, if you're like, fuck it, hamburger, whatever.
If that doesn't bother you, then you're going to be good. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, let us move on to the spoilers.
I really wasn't expecting the Lake Placid angle of one of the movie's subplots.
With the fucking crocodile?
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I mean, it's a really well-used metaphor when the character is just swimming out in the water and everything's okay, but the audience sees the crocodile getting closer.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know?
Well, that's a great example of like Ti West kind of proving how much of a master of suspense he truly is, which I kind of knew that from his old movies, but he really fucking shines in this one because like you have this whole scene of that girl swimming and that alligator slowly approaching behind her and she's like going towards the docks and there's that moment where she stops on the docks.
Yeah.
You know, to catch her breath and you're like, no, fucking no. And you know, it's about to hit her and she jumps out of the water and you're like, okay, faked out. And what I love about that scene is that this is when you're trying to figure out who the first kill's going to be.
Yeah.
Because if you know it's a slasher movie, you're waiting for the first body to drop.
Yeah.
And so we have a character who...
And we know it's going to happen because of that gnarly cow death.
Yes.
You know.
And so we have a character who is the first character who we kind of see speaking of our main cast at the beginning. Or at least one of the first characters. And then we have another character who's introduced who's the virginal character who doesn't really approve of the pornography they're filming, or at least we're not sure if she approves of it because she's kind of like a virginal kind of church going
she's
type.
Like this virginal church girl who was like the boyfriend of the director who's like handling the sound.
And if you've seen enough slasher movies, you know what the formula is. The formula is you're introduced to all these characters. You have a character that you may be introduced to first, but that character is a red herring and is going to die really early on, which is going to lead way for the actual main character who's going to be the virginal one.
Right.
And she's going to take over as the final girl. This movie is aware that you are familiar with those tropes if you're a horror film and fucks with you the entire time. Because the character that you're like, okay, this is going to be the first character to die, even though she's the first one we're introduced to, she turns out to be your actual final girl.
Yeah.
It's not just a fucking like trick.
Yeah, it's not a red herring.
It's not a red herring, but the first like few scenes where it looks like someone's going to die involves her looking like she's about to die.
Yeah. And
twice.
Yeah, twice. And the other thing is they keep talking about Psycho.
Yeah.
So they're, because the movie's like, we could kill that.
And then it turns out the actual red herring is the virginal girl who's played by probably the most famous actress in the movie, Jenna Ortega.
Yeah.
Who just also had a big fucking like huge blowout with Scream. Not blowout, but like resurgence in horror popularity.
Yeah.
Because of Scream. So coming off the heels of that, she is without a doubt among horror fans the biggest star in this movie.
Yeah, and she was also like Jane the Virgin, right? Wasn't she?
Something like that.
Yeah.
As the movie goes on, you realize that she's not exactly what she seems to be when she ends up wanting to join the porno.
Yeah, she wants to be an actress.
Porno.
Yeah.
So she's not really the virginal one. She's not even probably a virgin at all. And she's also not disapproving of the whole thing. So she becomes one of the girls, one of everyone in the movie. So she's becomes a main character of the cast and not like the special final girl. And the character that you are introduced to first off does turn out to be the final girl. And the movie does a great job of messing with you the entire time. I wasn't sure at any given time.
Yeah, how it was going to go down.
Even to the point when we finally got to the one character and it was telegraphing hard that he was going to die first.
Yeah.
I was like, are they going to trick us again? You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, you have Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper playing. You have.
Oh man, that scene is so good.
You have him alone with the killer, which turns out the killer in this movie is actually an old lady.
Yeah.
Very much harkening back to like something like God, there's a lot of 70s movies that have creepy old lady killers, but the big one that I can think of is like Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Like harkening back to something
Friday
like that.
Friday the 13th, or what if Norman Bates wasn't crazy and psycho and it actually was his mother?
Yeah, what if his mother was actually the killer?
Yeah.
But in this case, she's not a mom. She's just the wife of the wife of the man who they're renting out the home from.
Yeah.
And her motivation in this is fucking fascinating because unlike most slasher movies where it's like, oh, you tried to kill me or you killed my son or you made fun of me when I was 12 or whatever, you know, this movie's motivation is they turn her on too much.
Yeah.
And so she has to kill them because she has reached old age and she can no longer have the sex she used to.
Yep.
Now, it turns out over the course of the movie that even that's a red herring, because it turns out, as we find out in the post-credits scene, she's been killing people a long time. Yeah. This has nothing to do with her being horny. She just kills people a lot. But for most of the movie, we're operating under this belief that we have a serial killer who is an old lady who's killing people because she's horny, and it's glorious.
Yeah. And one of the things that's really good about the movie, I didn't want to mention this in the non-spoilers, but it does kind of give something away, is that the main girl, the first character that you see, and the old lady are played by the same actress.
Yes. It subtly ties into the theming of the movie, because the main character, the final girl, she's kind of dealing with this. She wants to get famous so she can get out.
Yeah.
You know, she wants to get famous. She doesn't want anything to get in her way because she wants to get out of the shitty poor life. She wants to get out of the strip club and eventually out of the porn game.
Yeah.
Because she wants to go and be able to do what she wants, but there's no opportunities for her. So she's taking the path that's best for her. On the flip side, you have the killer who obviously wanted to have a lot of sex when she was younger, but grew up in this puritanical environment.
Yeah.
And so didn't, and kind of resents these characters for being young, beautiful, and having a lot of sex.
Yep.
And so she kind of sees the main character as like the mirror image of her. Like eventually you're going to grow old and not be able to do whatever. And the main character is just kind of like, well, I'm actually living my life. Like, it's not my fault you chose not to.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, it's not my fault that this opportunity wasn't there for you. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Why am I paying for your mistake?
Having the old lady actually played by the same actress under so much makeup and doing such a great performance that you can barely tell.
Yeah. The only way you're gonna be able to tell is if you're familiar with the way that young actors fuck up when they're playing old people.
Oh yeah.
You got to be really, really familiar. It's like, this is one of those, it's good enough. It's more than good enough for government work.
The thing is that I could tell that they were actors in heavy makeup.
Yeah.
What I wasn't sure was how young the actual base actors were until we got into later in the movie and it became more clear.
Yeah, it becomes a little more obvious.
That both actors are played by a lot younger people.
Yeah. But I got the feeling the guy was played by someone who was like probably in his like 40s.
Most likely,
you know?
like 40s, 30s, late 30s, something like that.
Yeah, whereas the actress playing the old woman is like clearly still a stoner, like, early mid 20s.
But there's also a reveal after the credits that they're making a prequel to this movie. All about the backstory of this old lady. And based on that trailer, she's been killing people for a long time and it has had nothing to do with sex. So,
so I'm very fascinated with this potential prequel.
And you get the actress who played the main character in this playing the younger version of the serial killer too. So you get that cool, like, it reminded me a lot of the Fear Street trilogy, how Fear Street trilogy did that thing where they had the third movie that was set way in like the 1600s and everyone's playing like their ancestors.
Right.
Like, it's doing something like that. And so I'm actually really looking forward to Pearl. the prequel to this movie. I wasn't sure if it was a fake trailer or not, but we looked it up, and it's actually on the A24 docket, so I'm looking forward to Pearl.
Well, it looks like they've already filmed a chunk of it, you know?
Based on that trailer.
It's like, oh, you... Damn.
Well, it's on the same location, so I'm guessing they filmed it back to back.
Yeah, they must have.
Once they have the location.
I'm like, did they want to integrate this backstory more into the movie? And they were like, actually, we can make 2 movies.
Maybe.
You know?
I don't know. And the funny thing is, Pearl looks more like an A24 film.
It does.
Like properly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Which I thought was fucking hilarious. like it does the A24 thing of playing with milieu a lot, you know, and the sort of like the way the A24 films like film the outdoors.
Oh yeah,
and things like that. If you know what we're talking about, you know what we're talking about. If you don't worry about it. It looks good.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't even touched upon all like the cool fucking kills in this movie. Like there's one that's just straight out of a Fulci movie where a guy gets fucking stabbed in the eye.
Yeah,
you know, it's like right out of was it The Beyond or was it City of the Living Dead?
I think it was City of the Living Dead.
Yeah, where it like comes through the hole and like dude gets it right in the fucking eye. It's fucking. And if you're wondering how an old lady can kill all these people, she basically lures them into a false sense of security each time, and then fucking like strikes when they least expect it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is you're finding yourself going like, how intentional is this old lady act? You know, or do people just go, well, it's an old lady, so what's going to happen?
Here's my thing: when you get to the end of the movie and you hear her actually coherently yelling at the main character, I'm pretty convinced that there was a lot of acting going on that character's behalf.
Right.
That she was doing a lot of like frail old lady stuff when she's actually more capable than she was letting on.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I'm pretty sure her husband actually did have a heart condition, considering he fucking dies of a heart attack when one of the characters startle him.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. This movie starts out with that situation where a bunch of police officers arrive at the scene.
Oh, yeah.
And you see a bunch of stuff and you're like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie is about explaining how this happened.
And what I love is that even though I knew that, okay, there's a body there at one point, there's a body there at one point, I wasn't sure at any given point which character was going to end up on that ground.
Yes.
You know? And we also, because they're all under like sheets, you don't know how they died.
Yeah. And at the very end of the movie, the very end of the plot, you know, when all those questions are answered, it goes Tarantino.
Oh my God. You know? Yeah. That was the moment where I was just like, oh man, like the From Dusk Till Dawn vibes was not inaccurate.
No, like it's in the end, it's just sort of like, I'll kill you. And then a guy like, you know, shoots a shotgun and then he goes flying 10 feet back.
She goes flying.
Yeah, she goes flying 10 feet back. And all kinds of shit like that, you know, like, oh my God.
Oh my God. And that fucking last shot where like the police officer walks over with the camera that they filmed the porno on.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, what do you think's on it, Chief? And then the police officer is just like, I don't know, but based on what I'm seeing around here, it'll be one hell of a horror film.
You know, like credits, you know, like, oh man, that was good.
It reminds me of the punchline of like You're Next, how You're Next, I kind of ended on this funny punchline that was really dark. Oh man, this movie's fun, man. Like, and I love all the characters in this. Like you think that like that one blonde character is going to be like the bitchy one, but
yeah, no,
you end up really liking her.
She's the nicest one. Yeah,
you know, she's really cool. The character that like at the beginning seems like he's just like he's like the innocent nice dude and he's gonna be fine. Turns out to be the biggest asshole in the movie, and that's the director.
Yeah. You know? Whereas you think the biggest asshole is gonna be the producer.
Like, I get that he was uncomfortable with his girlfriend starring in the porno, but he was also being a massive hypocrite based on everything else that was said earlier in the movie, you know?
Yeah.
Everything else he was trying to convince her of, and then she's like, well, I mean, if that's true, then
I'm gonna fuck someone on camera.
And it was just like, no, I'm not gonna let you. And it wasn't even like, oh, please don't do that for me. It was like he was like putting his foot down, like he controlled her, and I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, You don't get to fucking say that to your girlfriend. You get to kindly ask her to not do it for you. You don't get to fucking tell her that you forbid it. Like, you're not her dad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So when he died, I actually kind of like was anticipating that.
Well, yeah, because watching his journey from like this sort of from the passive observer to the scene in the shower where he's crying.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So this is a common scene you see in like a lot of like, dramas where the girl crosses the line, or the line she's not comfortable with, and then is in a shower crying. Yeah. But in this case, it's the dude, it's the director.
That was the one death where like the character, like I was like, well, you kind of earned this. Everyone else, including the producer, who even though the producer was a bit of an ass, I kind of liked him.
He's a sleaze bag, but like you had a certain respect for him by the end. I
kind of liked him despite all his like more sleazy tendencies.
Yeah. You do find yourself going like, oh, well, I'm not too sad you died. Yeah. But like, he is just different enough from your classic sleazy producer that you find yourself going, oh, he wasn't as bad as I thought he was.
The saddest death was probably the war vet guy, though.
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah, that one's fucked up.
That guy, like, he's just helping the old man try to find his wife, and then the guy pulls a gun on him and shoots him, and you're just like, oh, man.
Man, yeah.
That guy was a nice guy. And he's the one guy who showed his dick on the screen, which makes him better than all the other guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Real hero of the picture.
Like, 2 of the ladies showed their tits. He was the only guy who showed his dick.
Yep.
I think the guy in the shower, I think you may see his ass, and that's it.
Yeah, this is about it. Because the point is watching this idiot weep.
Yeah. Warvet guy. Warvet guy, you get a salute. Man. Probably the best and like most hilarious and awesome death is blonde girl getting pushed into the water with the crocodile.
Yeah, getting eaten by the crocodile.
Yeah, because that was like multiple layers of buildup.
Yes. Yeah. You're just sort of like, look, you don't put an alligator in you don't put a crocodile and alligator in a movie like this that's gonna eat something.
Yeah.
Like, come on. And then it happens. What
was it? Was it Tobe Hooper's Eaten Alive?
I think that was it.
With the crocodiles and that.
Yeah.
One? Probably alligators. I always mix them up, but
I did.
It was so big, I assumed it was a crocodile.
I actually don't know which one is generally bigger. I think crocodiles get bigger, but I don't know.
Feel free to let us know in the comments below, because I honestly don't know.
To me, like alligator and crocodile are basically, they're almost interchangeable, except one is greener and fatter. That's all I know.
I do like that this movie had all of Ti West's signatures. The recreating of a very specific period's like filmmaking style, signature 1. Signature 2, there's always a halfway point in the movie that marks the transition point for the movie that is marked by a song sequence.
Yes.
In House of the Devil, it's that sequence when she's dancing around the house.
Yeah.
In this one, there's actually a sequence where one of them's got a guitar and they're actually singing a song to everyone while they're all having like a... It's not really a campfire, but it's almost like a campfire.
Yeah, it was a campfire-esque situation,
And it kind of marks the transition from the porn section of the movie to the slasher section of the movie.
Yeah, well, one of the other things that I kind of like about the guitar thing was that it does this subtle thing, but you're only going to pick up on it if you were in like a youth Christian group, which is the fact that the porn people, except for the porn part, they are behaving exactly like those youth church getaways.
Oh yeah,
there's always the pastor with the guitar.
Well, yeah, I assumed that it was an intentional homage to Friday the 13th, which opens up with those people with the guitar, like at the very beginning.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
And with that said, where can they find you, Camp Jack?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Counting Jack, where I put up alerts when I stream. I stream on YouTube, but if you follow me on Twitter, there'll just be a link to the live stream, and I'd love to see you there. We talk about all kinds of groovy things like blood, boobs, movie, Satan, heavy metal, and right now also Yakuza Like a Dragon, because I'm really into that game at the moment.
Finally got Jack to play it, and it's been going well.
Really, really good, because it's a modern RPG that is just ridiculous.
Yep.
But it's done with all the love of like a Final Fantasy.
Yep.
And you're just like, I'm playing Yakuza, but this is like got as much content as like a fucking Square Enix. This is ridiculous.
100%, even more so than a lot of modern Square Enix games too.
Yeah. This is like back in the days of like Final Fantasy 7 and 9.
Yeah.
You know, so we're having a lot of fun there. I also occasionally post on Instagram at Satanic Jackula, but you know, you probably get. I'm on Twitter mostly.
There you go.
And how about you?
Y'all know me. I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on Twitter, on Twitch, on Instagram, and Facebook. Just look up the Horror Guru or Blood Splattered Cinema, and I'll be there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're notified of our videos immediately upon their upload. I don't know why I'm having trouble talking today. It's probably because I took my nasal medication earlier, and so it's been like, it's been fucking with me and drying everything out. But anyway. Ring that notification bell, and if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, then be sure to check out that Patreon page.
Please.
Our Patreon pages. And remember, if you go to the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way. And if you made it this far into the vlog, then I want you to comment below with hashtag Hell of a Horror Movie.
Horror movie.
Comment below with the hashtag Hell of a Horror Movie. Work it in however you please, and that way I know, that way Jack knows, that way the whole world knows you watch this vlog all the way through. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, I was going to record another vlog after this, but I think I actually need to rest my voice. So we're going to record our next vlog another day.
Okay. Okay.
Peace out, my fellow Gorehounds, and I'll catch y'all later.